Welcome to the PC Mechanic tutorial section. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use NTFS permission to control access to your PC system. Now you can use NTF permissions to control access to individual hard drives, folders and individual files. But it's very important that you remember that these permissions are cumulative. That means you can assign one or more permissions for a given file or folder to a user's account. And the end level of access is a combination of all the permissions that you have assigned, with the most restrictive being the one that's applied in the end result. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, first of all, how to set restrictive access to a file. So we go to the Start button and click on Computer. Now we're going to actually be working on the D drive in this tutorial. So if we double click on the D drive, you'll notice there's two folders on this drive. Now we're going to open the example, and in here you'll notice there is an example text file. Now if we right click on it and go to Properties and go to the Security tab, this is your user access control. This will show you exactly who has what access to this particular file, and we're talking about the example file within the example folder on the D drive. Now if we go to the administrator, you'll notice that the administrator has full access to this file, which means he can do whatever he wishes with this file. Now if we go to the user group, and every user account on this PC system is a member of the user group, and they will all have the same access, which is the read and execute, which means they can read it, they can edit it, they can save their edits, and they can print it. Now what we're actually going to do here is restrict a certain user from access to this file. Now earlier on we set up a user account in the name of Jim. So if we click Edit and then Add, what we're going to do is add Jim specifically to the user access control list. So if we type in Jim and click on the check name and then OK, you'll notice that Jim has now been added to the access control list. And if we click on Jim, he's got the same access that he would with his association with the user group. But what we're going to do here is deny him complete access to this file. We don't want him to have any access whatsoever. We don't want him to be able to read it or edit it or do anything to this particular file. So if we just click on the deny full control, you'll notice that it is put ticks in the deny for everything to do with this file, and then we click Apply. We will now get a warning telling us that the deny permission entry overrides any allow. So we click Yes, and now if we go back to the user, which Jim is still a member of this group, the users group. As a member of this group, he would normally have the read and execute and the read to this file, but because we have specifically named him and given him deny permissions, he now can no longer have any access to this particular file, and we're only talking about this file here. So if we click OK, now if we click the back button and open and right click on the folder and click Properties and Security, you'll notice that his name does not appear in this access control list, because his access to the actual folder is being controlled by his association with the user group. And as a member of the user group, he has his normal access controls to the folder itself. But if he tried to open the folder, because we have denied him access to it, specifically by his name, he would not be able to access this folder at all. He would not be able to see what was in it or do anything with this folder. Now that is how you can set specific permissions to a folder, to a file, sorry. Now what we're going to do is we're going to restrict access to the folder itself. Now we're going to go back into the example folder. So we right click on it and click Properties and go to the Security. You'll notice in here that you get the same access controls as you would to a file, which means the administrator can do whatever he wants to this folder, which means he can add new files within it. He can do anything he likes. And the user, again, has got the same access control that he would to a file within the folder. Now, we've got another user on this computer by the name of John. And what we're going to do is give him restrictive access to this folder. So if we click on the add button again and type in John and check name and click OK, you'll notice that John has now appeared in the access control list for the example folder on the D drive. Now what we're going to do here is if we look in the user, now John is a member of the users group, and as a member of the users group he has a normal access to the folder itself, which means he can read and execute files within the folder. He can list the folder contents, which means he can list the actual files that are contained within the folder itself. He can read them, but he cannot write to them. Now if we go back to his actual name that we've just added, you'll notice that he has exactly the same permissions in here that he would as his association with the user group. But what we're going to do here is to restrict him so that all he can actually do is to read the files contained within this folder. He will not be able to open these folders, he will not be able to write to them, and he would not be able to save any information within this folder. Now if we click on OK, now as a member of the users group you'll notice that he still has the same permissions because the permissions are cumulative. If we click on his name, it now comes up that the only thing he can actually do with this folder is to read it and to read its contents. He cannot do anything else whatsoever with this particular folder. Now, as I said earlier, you can set user access controls on files, folders and drives. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to deny him access to the whole drive itself. So if we go to the drive and right click on it, select properties and then the security tab, and in here we have exactly the same user access controls, with the administrator having full access to everything on this drive and the users having the same limited access as they would to a file or a folder. But what we're going to actually do here is deny John access to anything on this drive altogether. So we go back to the edit and we want to add John. So we type in John, check name and then click OK. You'll notice that John has now come up in here and he has his normal access controls to the drive as he would to any other file or folder. But now if we click the deny full control, what we're basically doing is saying that John cannot have any access whatsoever to this drive. Now if I click the apply, we get the same warning coming up telling us that the deny overrides the allow permission. But now when I click the yes button, it will go through every single file, folder and document within this drive and give the deny permission to John. Now you'll notice that it's going through every single file and folder within this drive. Now this could take several minutes, obviously depending on how many files and folders you have on the drive. But when it is finished, you'll notice that now John cannot do anything whatsoever with this hard drive. He cannot access any of the files on it and he cannot save any new files to this drive. And that is how you control access to your PC using user accounts and the NTF permissions. Thank you for watching this tutorial and I will see you in the next one.